surprising. Yeah, it's like, I have no idea. They just, yeah. That makes a lot. Right now, that's not.
Don't let you run out of time. That's really early, I think. Who knew that I'd be early? That's great. Yeah, so now I think
Just double checking the file came through for you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
we always have to be at the right place.
Oh yeah. You got a minute.
It's the hardest. I'm like, this is the hardest part. Like the end, and then it's
See, March the worst one. My brain says it's over, and then it's cold. And foot of snow, yeah. Sure. Hopefully they'll tell me when they need it. Well, that's just it. So it looks like, gosh, about after tomorrow it starts getting decent again, weather-wise, right? Like, yeah, 4th or 39 or something like that. I haven't smoked anything in a long time. But it was funny. When they did the chili cook-off, I smoked something for the chili cook-off. The Sunday before that, or it was Monday, I can't remember. Anyway, was yeah. So I do this. It's called over the top chili. And so what you do is you make your chili, put everything into a cast iron, a Dutch oven, and then you make a ball of meat, and you put the ball of meat like on a top rack, and then the rest of the stuff sits below, and so the meat smokes, and then it drips into the chili. I was coaching it. It was me and Marquise. I've never been to Well, I mean, it's close to the finished product. All I do is basically I take it off and then I break it up and dump it into the... What number? Was I like 2? Right when you walked in and you took a right, it was that second one.
I'm just trying to take the photo. I was trying to airdrop. Maybe you can just have to press the airdrop button.
Okay, where's the airdrop button? Not this one. Oh, okay. And then airdrop?
Yep. Hey, did it come? Yep. Thank you.
Yeah? Oh, I learn new stuff all the time. But yeah, that timing was just perfect. It warmed up that one Sunday. Yeah, when it's not crazy. Like when you usually like the chili's the only thing I've made in the past about 2 or 3 months. It's just been, yeah. My people.
Second for first place.
Thanks. Thanks, man. I think did Marquise have the chicken one? Because they were talking that next time they might do like categories or something.
I think
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a fun deal. Like, try everybody's chili. Yeah. I think the very first one had an onion or something like that. Sure. So maybe they're going to start going. I started the stream about 10 minutes ago. You should know this, man. Right, like you
Good evening, everybody. Let's get going. We're going to get going here. So if you can find a seat, and all the panelists, please come up. Our wonderful panelists, come up and grab a seat. Thank you, thank you. Yes, President Garcia, come up here.
I always feel bad
It's right there.
All of us with the same haircut are going to hang out like right here.
Yeah. Then I feel like I'm like, oh, I should like grow my.
I'm Rolando. I'm the president of Northampton.
I'm Huldah. So, I'm Attorney General's office.
You were hesitant to meet me.
So I'm with the wage theft division.
Oh, I could take it off.
I'm not sure the people watching.
Okay, then we'll keep it on.
Want to see? I'm sure you would.
We're making progress. Still,
It's because I'm dressed up like Dr. Evil. the Jerry Garcia? Well, that's my cousin. Because all Garcias are related. Oh my God, this better not be on.
All right, good evening. Good evening.
Evening.
All right. Of course, in light of recent, I had to write this down because I wanted to make sure that I'm saying everything the way I want to say it. In light of recent executive orders, especially issued by the current president, Donald Trump, concerning immigrations, it's very essential for community concerns and to understand the implications of these executive orders. There are definitely pertinent questions that we want to be asking our panels this evening so that we'll be able to delve into the concerns, the anxiety, and areas of clarity. I think clarity is very important at this point. So to begin with, I would like to call on Huldah, our representative Huldah, Hiltsley, to officially welcome all of us to this evening's community conversation on immigration safety. Ladies and gentlemen, Huldah Mumayi.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening.
Are we all excited to be here?
Yeah.
I mean, look at this panel. Can we just give a clap to this amazing, powerful panel up there? Like, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys taking the call last minute and working with us. I know AG Keith Allison is back there taking a call, so just give him a couple of minutes to finish. Before we begin, I want to make sure that we are acknowledging the land that we are on. And so I'm gonna read the land acknowledgement so that we can be centered in this space. So we acknowledge that Brooklyn Park is located on the traditional and ancestral land of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people who have steward this land for generations. We recognize the deep history, culture, resilience of indigenous communities who have lived here long before colonization and who continue to be an essential part of this region today. We honor their ongoing connection to this land and commit to working towards justice, equity, and meaningful partnership with indigenous nations and communities. Thank you so much. So with that, if you do not know who I am Representative Huldah Hiltsley. It is an honor and privilege to be representing this district, the best district in the whole entire state of Minnesota. Yes, thank you. And then also, fun fact, the most diverse, racially diverse district in the whole entire state of Minnesota, though. So that speaks a lot of volume about the uniqueness and the beauty of this district. And it's such an honor to be at the Capitol, at the People's House, representing this district. With that, you guys came here to really get important and really the right information about immigration safety. As an immigrant myself, my family migrated here when I was just 9 years old, and we fought the immigration system for 11 long years. It was by the grace of God, and also back then, Senator Paul Wellstone who my church petitioned, and he came in within 48 hours, really rallied around my family. And I cannot believe that 22 plus years later, I am here as a representative. So that is a testament of what this country stands for and what we are fighting for. We are fighting for a democracy that welcomes all people from all races. That's what makes America amazing. I was gonna say great, but I'm not gonna go there. Got that. So with that said, I'm so grateful for everybody here, for the audience, for the community, and we are streaming live. So that way, for those of you at home watching, whatever you are, know that you can submit your questions, and we'll be here to answer those questions with all of the experts up here. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to my amazing brother. He is the founder of Africa Let's Talk. He is a pillar in this community. He's gonna help us moderate this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. One more time, please. Let's put our hands together for Representative Huldah Hiltsley Momaye. At this time, would like to hear introduction from our panels, and to help me do that, I believe they have mics close to them. So please, if you can introduce yourself by way of your name, your title, and a brief introduction of who you are. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can y'all hear me pretty good? Good. Hello, my name is Deconti Sawyer, and I am the Director of Constituent Services with Congresswoman Kelly Morrison. I also oversee her immigration portfolio, so I do outreach for immigration as well. Prior to Rep. Kelly, I worked for Rep. Dean Phillips for his duration of time in Congress, and a year for Rep. Angie Craig. So I've been over the place, but it's great to be back in the 3rd District with Rep. Morrison, because 3rd District is my home, and it's great to be back serving in the most active district in the nation. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Police Chief Mark Bruley, Brooklyn Park Police Department. It's great to be here with you all tonight. I hope we have a great discussion. And just to give you a little background for me, I've been with the City of Brooklyn Park for 30 years. Been with the Police Chief for just about 3 years here. So I've been with this community a long time, grew up with this community, and it's not only the district is very diverse, but the City of Brooklyn Park, if you don't know, is 64% people of color, and we're 87,000 people. So we are the biggest, most diverse city by far in the state of Minnesota. But it's not just that, our diversity is diverse, which makes this conversation very important. 1 in 5 people in Brooklyn Park were foreign born. And so there's no place that's more ground zero or more germane to this conversation about immigration. And I meet people every day that this is very important to. So thank you for having the conversation, and thank you for letting me be part of it.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Rolando Garcia, president of North Hennepin Community College, and I am a first-generation child of immigrants. My parents were Cuban immigrants back in the 60s, and so much like representative here, I'm an example of what can happen when you allow immigration to thrive. In one generation, my family went from having no education, not getting past the 1st grade, to earning a doctorate and serving as a president of an institution of higher ed. So there are great opportunities, and I'm here to make sure that our students in our community have those opportunities and will continue to have those opportunities. And so I'm glad to serve here at the 3rd most diverse college in the whole system. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Moriarty, and I'm the Hennepin County Attorney. I've been in this position slightly over 2 years, and I'm really excited to be part of this conversation, which is a really, really important conversation. And I'm really proud to see our team here. We have a fabulous immigration team at the office, and they have worked very hard to put together all things immigration to advise our entire office. So they're there in the 3rd row. Also, our Director of Community Affairs is Jen White, a resident of Brooklyn Park. So we're all really excited to be here.
And she's an alum, so.
Oh, she's an alum, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you tonight. My name is Paul Dimmick. I'm an Assistant Attorney General with the Minnesota Attorney General's Office. I'm filling in for Keith while he's on another call, but he'll be here shortly, and then you can hear from him yourself. So, great to be here.
Hi, everyone. I am Representative Sandra Feist, a colleague of Huldah, Representative Hiltsley in the House. My district is 39B, which is kind of right above Minneapolis. It's the southern part of New Brighton, most of Columbia Heights, and all of St. Anthony. And one day I'll find a faster way to summarize that. I am also an immigration attorney, and I ran for office in 2020 after being pretty pissed off after 4 years of being an immigration attorney under Trump the first time. And I like sketched out, I just wanted to mention that we did pass a lot of great bipartisan immigration legislation since I was elected. I'll just like run through these really quick, but we expanded access to special immigrant juvenile status. This is the main way that unaccompanied minors were able to get green cards and not be deported, and they were getting cut off at the age of 18, and so we extended that to 21, and that was a bipartisan bill. We also tried to enhance access to the U visa. We changed the definition of gross misdemeanor so that it'll never get someone automatically deported, which is stupid because it's a misdemeanor. We created the Office of New Americans so that people who are here, I'm super excited about it. It's nice to be in a space where people are like, yay, Office of New Americans. But yeah, they're with Indeed. They can help people who are here from other countries get into our workforce and be able to like work in their field to the greatest like extent. So like if they were an engineer in Syria, we want them to be able to be an engineer here. And we passed some labor trafficking and wage theft laws to protect immigrants and construction industry in particular. And then like the most exciting stuff that we did with the DFL trifecta was expand driver's license for all. And yeah, which was amazing. 20 years in the making. And then also expanded access to Minnesota Care so that immigration status is irrelevant and all low-income Minnesotans have access. And it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Luika Alexandre, and I am a staff attorney with the Advocates for Human Rights and Immigration attorney, and I'm really excited to be here and be a part of this panel and talk to you good folks.
Hi, my name is Jillian Brown. I am also a staff attorney with the Advocates for Human Rights. I too am very happy to be on this panel, although it does feel like there's an awful lot of way more impressive people further that way.
Thule with Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid. I'm not an attorney, to be clear. I was asked to fill in because the attorney could not make it today. I am a legal assistant, a credit representative. I work with our immigration unit, and I've worked there for a long time, so I do all the paperwork, so basically. But yeah, so I'm glad to be here.
Right, one more time, please. Let's put our hands together for the panelists. Very substantive panel of experience, education, and like I said, for tonight, it's all about clarity, and that is what we are seeking to do. Of course, some of the subjects that we'll be running through include immigration enforcement and community impact. We'll also be looking at questions on state and legislative roles, as well as legal protections and rights. We'll also be delving into public safety and community trust, as well as workforce and economic protections and state and federal coordinations. We'll also be delving into questions on support for refugees and asylum seekers. Of course, because we are actually doing this right from Brooklyn Park, I would like to extend the first questions to the Chief of Police, please. This is coming to you. But in the meantime, if you are watching online, please you are able to submit your questions through the portal, and then they will get to us at the appointed time so that we can ask your questions for you. So please, since ICE, which is becoming a very common, popular thing, especially when everybody watches TV and listens to radio, it's a federal agency. The question to you is, what is the role of local law enforcement when ICE operates within your jurisdiction, please?
Great question. One I've been getting a lot. So to answer it specifically, and then we're going to go into a long dissertation, but specifically, we don't have a role in immigration. That is not the role of local government. Immigration is enforced by federal agents, specifically ICE, and that is their role. And there's very specific laws for them to do that. Can local law enforcement assist them and cooperate? Absolutely. I could direct my officers to go out and ask questions about immigration status and hold people for ICE to arrive and turn them over. That does not serve the interest of public safety. And that is what I'm responsible for as a police chief of a local government, is public safety for this community. And to do that, as we all have learned, is we have to have trust. We have to have people that are willing to call the police, and not only call the police, but actually believe in their heart that that man or that woman wearing that uniform is going to come out and is going to have their best interest in mind. They're going to come out and do the right thing. And even if that means at times arresting their husband or their wife in a domestic situation or taking enforcement action, but at the end of the day, it's to be done for the betterment of those involved and or in the interest of public safety. And that is at the core of what a safe community has. Adversely, imagine this is my fear. This is absolutely would be my fear as a police chief, and I've seen this in my career. Imagine if we did work with ICE in this community as diverse and as many immigrants or non-documented individuals that we have, and they did not feel safe, knowing that if they called the police would figure out they were here undocumented, and we would turn them over to ICE. They would stop calling the police. We all would. I would. Now imagine if we had groups of people that didn't call the police. We would absolutely have created a vulnerable group of individuals that wrongdoers would figure out that I can go victimize them financially or physically, and I can take advantage of that group because they will not seek help or seek out public safety needs. And now we've created an extremely dangerous situation and created more crime and uncertainty in our community. And that's the exact opposite of what I'm supposed to do as a police chief. I'm supposed to create a safe environment, safe places where people can come to work in Brooklyn Park, live in Brooklyn Park, go to school, educate in Brooklyn Park. And to do that, we have to have a police department where everybody can pick up the phone and call for help. And so that is at the core of what we do, and that does not match up with being agents of immigration. So our policy is very, very clear. Our officers do not ask, inquire in any way about immigration status when they're interacting with the public. Now, where it does get complicated is, because we've had this even recently, is where somebody gets arrested and then the community member says, Chief, you said your officers don't ask, but my husband was arrested and now he's being detained by ICE, or that he's being deported. That can happen, but that's not because the officer's actions are required. The officers will not know unless the individual overtly tells them whether somebody is here legally or illegally. They will not know that. But when they get to jail and book somebody in, jail staff do a couple things that are required by law. One is they're going to ask that person where they were born or if they're a U.S. citizen. And they do that because they have an obligation to notify a consulate if you're not a U.S. citizen. So for example, if somebody is a citizen of Liberia, and they get arrested here for whatever, domestic, whatever reason they get booked into our jail or Hennepin County Jail, that question is going to be asked by the jail staff. And then we have to notify the consulate of that country, of Liberia, and tell them, we have that person in custody. At times, ICE is made aware of that notification, not by us, but through the consulate or through the connections. The other big way is through our fingerprinting. If you get arrested, you get fingerprinting. There are times that we are called and we know that ICE has been made aware through the system of fingerprints, meaning they have to have put some sort of alert on a person's name and fingerprint, and when that's identified, they'll call our jail and say, hey, we want that person, please hold them. We will not hold them for ICE. But we also will not hinder ICE's ability. They are a legitimate legal arm of the government. They are doing a job that is in statute that allows them to enforce immigration laws. Again, that does not serve my interest. We will not hold people in my jail for detainers on ICE. But if they get a warrant signed by a judge, we will clearly honor that. I have an obligation to honor that.
Okay.
But we will not honor the ICE detainers. I did warn you it was going to be long. I want to say that.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And of course, it's very good to have this elaborative discussion so that we can all, because there's so many things going on. So I appreciate you taking the time. But obviously, I'm going to come back to you. But now, the AG's office, please. One thing that we'd like to know is, does the ICE, for example, inform the Minnesota Attorney General's office or local law enforcement agencies before conducting these operations, especially in the state of Minnesota?
Can you repeat that?
No, the question I'm asking is does ICE inform your office, for example, before they conduct any of these operations in the state? Do they inform the office of the Attorney General, or better still, any local law enforcement agency before they start any operations?
And you're referring to ICE operations?
Yeah, ICE operations, yes.
So, not to my knowledge that I'm aware of, there's nothing that, no coordination between our office and ICE about those operations that ICE is conducting. That's separate. Our office does not enforce federal immigration law. We only enforce state law, and so we're not coordinating or collaborating, and to my knowledge, there's no information sharing from ICE to us before they're executing any operations in Minnesota.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, the next question has to do with both legal and police. So, and probably I can ask it in two segments. The first is that, can ICE, for example, legally enter a home or break down a door without warrants? And of course, the second one, when being answered from a legal representative, has to do with what happens to the young children if, for example, their parents are taken away by ICE. So please, if we can demarcate these two questions. The first one has to do with if ICE has the legal obligation to break down a door of a home without a warrant, and also the question on what happens to young children, for example, if their parents are taken away by ICE.
I think I can probably take this one on. No, they can't break into your home. The home is the most protected place that you have, constitutionally protected as your sanctuary. And that can only be done if you allow them in, so you could allow consent for them to come in, or they have to have a search warrant. Does not matter if you're undocumented, you still have constitutional rights, and that the ICE agents are law enforcement agents, they have to follow them. The second question was about children. I recently met with the director, the acting director of ICE, who is in charge of all ICE operations and agents for this region. The region includes the 5 states around us, so that's his purview of what he controls. And I had lots of questions because I just wanted to know. One thing I can tell you that's disappointing compared to my style of leadership is the ICE collectively, well, let's just be honest, the federal government holistically is not great about communicating their plans with community. They don't have the transparency that we feel is really important to the work that we do. So I had a lot of questions for the director, and I'll be honest, great guy, great answers. He was actually born, raised in Richfield, so he's a hometown kid. And that was one of the questions that I asked is, if you're doing these pickups, are we going to have children that are at schools, they come home and find their mom or dad gone? I mean, that would be devastating for somebody and not knowing. He said, absolutely, that will not happen. The only way that could possibly happen is if the parent was absolutely committed to making sure that we didn't know that they have children. But we do deep dives into who they are, and we likely would know that they have children. But he said that they have a robust plan to make sure that if somebody is taken into custody and they have children, that there has to be a parent to take care of them, or a relative that can take care of them. And he said what he has told his agents is that unless the person is dangerous, meaning like they're here undocumented and they are also have been convicted of a dangerous crime, so they identify them as being dangerous to society and they're going to remove them. If it's not one of those cases, he says they have told their agents to default to release the parent to take care of the children, and they give them a court date that they have to follow up in court for the violation of whatever immigration is going on. And that's the short version of a plan that he said We will never leave a child at school that come home to an empty house.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please, yes, please, you may add any other contributions.
Thank you. I must, so the first answer to the question with whether ICE can legally break down your door, that was a correct answer, in that your home, without a legal judicial warrant from the judge, or even with a legal judicial warrant from a judge, breaking down your door would constitute like they would need an exigent circumstance, meaning an emergency or something like that to react that way if there was no impetus for that action. However, in terms of whether ICE can pick up parents or do pick up parents, they do. And so parents have to be prepared. There's a document called the Delegation of Parental Authority that you can leave someone in charge of your children. And there are resources as well. If you go to Law Help MN, it tells you what the Delegation of Parental Authority is and what steps you can take. And then there is also a family preparedness kit from the Volunteers Lawyers Network website that you can access. And I will leave some resources with Representative Hildah Hiltsley and for people to be able to have access to. And in terms of ICE as well, they can lie about who they are. They can say that they're police. They sometimes wear vests that says FBI or others, some type of, they also say they could be wearing vests that says police as well. And so ICE is able to lie to you and say that they have a certain type of authority, which they do not. And so I just want people to be careful and be aware with how they do interact with ICE. You do have rights, and ICE cannot come into your home without a judicial warrant signed by a judge.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you very much. Yes, please, you may add something to that, and then we can move on to the next question, please. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that, including recently under the current administration, I had constituents where ICE showed up and they had a judicial warrant signed by a judge, but it was for the wrong person. That person no longer lived there, and so they said you cannot come in, and ICE went away. So they still are following those basic rules. But I have also had a stay-at-home mom client who was picked up by ICE. She was home alone with the kids, so they absolutely do pick up parents.
And if I could jump in on that, because as county attorney, we have a child protection division. And the bottom line is, if a parent gets picked up and they're American-born children, citizens, they may end up in foster care. That is the reality of what could happen here. The other thing I wanted to say is there is a documented instance in Hennepin County where somebody was on electronic home monitoring, in other words, home arrest, and they have to open their door if somebody from Hennepin County probation comes, or if they don't, they'll get arrested on a warrant. ICE showed up at the door and lied and said that they were probation so that the person opened the door. When the person walked out of the house, they were arrested. They cut off the electronic home monitoring bracelet and took them into detention.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so because we have Attorney General Keith Ellison in, please, would like, you are very welcome, sir. You are very welcome. We'd like to ask you a question indeed from your office, which has to do with the state in relation to the work of the federal. And the question that I would like to ask, okay, so we want to know how many, is it possible to know how many ICE raids, for example, has happened so far in the state of Minnesota?
It may be possible to know that. I don't know that. I know that we've heard activity all over the state, not just in the Twin Cities, but also in the southern regions of the state, western regions of the state. We've been hearing a number of reports, but that's not information that I receive. just so you understand, the Attorney General's office is dedicated to working on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota. We don't work for ICE. We don't work for the feds. We work for you. That's why, if you need help from our office, we're not going to ask you where you were born or what your citizenship situation is. And you know what? You don't need to tell us. It's not relevant to the issues. And we represent people who are dealing with things like wage theft. We represent people who have been victims of scams. We represent people on a wide range of things, consumer matters and others, and we never ask what's your citizenship status. We will advise you, however, about T visas and U visas, which are legal tools that you might use if you've been a victim of a crime or a witness of one. It is a non-immigrant visa that can allow you to remain in the country during the pendency of the matter. So we'll give you that information, but you're never gonna see us saying, where are you from? We don't care, that's not our business. And so, to answer your question, you asked me a simple question and I'm giving you a complicated answer. But the truth is, ICE doesn't tell us how many raids they have made, and quite honestly, we do our job, they do theirs, but we're here to serve you and let you know what we can do to help you. Can I just add a few other things, or you need me to hand it back?
Oh, no, you may. I had a follow-up question,
Okay.
but please, you can go ahead and
Go
add a
for it.
few questions, and if it doesn't fit into my... Otherwise, please, the question I wanted to know is that how does your office, for example, collaborate with local law enforcement to ensure that immigrants actually, at this point in time, feel very safe reporting crimes without fear of deportation?
We actually really work as closely as we can with local law enforcement. We're very proud of our men and women who get out there and try to keep people safe from domestic violence, robbery, murder, all kinds of things. And we work with them to make sure community is safe. In Minnesota, we do not, our local law enforcement doesn't act as a deputy ICE agent. And so that's good, because we know that if a woman or a man, there's a victim of domestic violence, but they're afraid that by telling their status that they could be deported, so they go there for help and they end up being thrown out of the country, then that's not helpful for law enforcement. It also has another residual effect, if I may mention it. Look, we fight scams all day long. That's what we do with the AG's office. And one of the things that we will see during these scams is that people will take advantage of communities that are afraid. So if you are from a community that is, worried about your status, then people who you trust, who might even be from the same community, will say, oh yeah, I got you. Maybe they can speak your language, maybe they know your customs, and they will scam you. We've seen this time and time and time again. So it makes communities isolated, non-communicative, and therefore vulnerable. And so these things are really serious. If somebody tells you, oh, I can get your papers through, no problem, give me $10,000, they're probably lying to you. And so be careful of the scammers, because these things do happen often. But we've sent out guidance to schools about how to manage the situation if ICE agents show up at the schools. We've also sent guidance to our sheriffs and people who operate jails to make sure that they know that you've got to have a lawful ICE warrant in order to hold somebody beyond the time that they're going to be held in the jail. So we've been sending out guidance, and we're ready to send out more. We need to, but as we stay in touch with local law enforcement, they often will tell us what kind of information and guidance that they need in order to be effective in their jobs and to help protect people. And so there's the answer.
All right, thank you so very much. At this point, would like to ask a question for the president of this very institution, President Rolando. The question I have for you is, what support system does the college here have in place for students, for faculty, and of course for staff who may be impacted by the ICE raids?
So that's a fantastic question. So what we're doing here in terms of what all colleges do, which is educate folks. So what we've been able to do is we've provided cards with legal advice. So we call it our reg card, which provides information on you have the right to remain silent, with your amendment rights in terms of remaining silent, and also we're educating our employees in terms of if there is ICE coming to the campus requesting information. Student records are protected by FERPA, so that's another regulation protection. There are only a few folks at the college that can even provide that information, so we would need to see a warrant to provide that kind of information. That would come typically from a registrar's office. So that's in place. We also here at North Hennepin are fortunate that we do have social workers, psychologists on staff as well. So we are able to assist students who might have been impacted. We can also connect them with social services right here on site and be able to provide counseling needs for folks. But the important thing is that we are tied into the networks that exist here at the state, and so we'll be able to refer folks and connect them as needed. But as far as records go, there's a different purview if somebody would need to get access to those student records to track down a student.
All right, thank you very much. I truly, truly appreciate that. This institution has in place systems and, of course, programs and procedures that are protecting the rights of the people here in the institution. At this point, I have some set of questions for our legal representatives. So I'm going to ask to, and please, any of you, especially those who haven't spoken yet, may pick or take it up. The question that I have is, what rights do individuals have? For example, when an ICE person or official shows up at their home, at their workplace, or in public spaces. The second question, still on immigration enforcement and community impact, especially in the area of Lega, is if a family member is picked up by ICE, how can we find out if they are being held or where they are being held and whether they are being facing deportation? I think the chief police touched on that, but please, we have those two sets of questions. Any of the legal representatives may please take it up.
Representative Sandra Feist, do you want to take that and the rest of your crew down there?
It's nice the immigration attorneys are all sitting together. So I'm so sorry. I was just trying to look up the icelocator.gov. I was trying to find the website so I could say it specifically. So I already forgot the first question. Is it what rights do people have if they are encountering law enforcement?
Yeah, so for example, if ICE persons or officials shows up at their place of work, home, or even in public spaces, what rights do they have?
Well, I'll say a few things and then I'll pass it down and we can all talk about all the rights that people have. You have the right to remain silent, like all the TV shows say. That's good for ICE. It's also obviously applicable to regular law enforcement. You do not have to answer questions about where you were born or what your immigration status is. So that's very important. You can say that you want to talk to an attorney. If it's not a criminal case, you don't have a right to a free attorney, but you do have the right to talk to an attorney before you answer questions. And I'll pass it on if you'd like to add anything.
So in terms of when ICE goes to your home, you can say, I do not wish to speak with you if they're knocking on the door, or answer their questions. Please do not sign anything that ICE gives you, because you can sign away your rights that way often. And then you can say you would like to remain silent based on your Fifth Amendment rights, and also you do not give them permission to enter your home based on your Fourth Amendment rights or take anything from your home. I mean, ICE can technically they can do what legally they're not able to, if they don't have permission or a judicial warrant, they cannot enter your home, but sometimes ICE doesn't listen, so they just come in anyway sometimes. But you do have those rights, and please, you do not need to answer any questions that they ask you or sign any documents that they give you. In terms of what rights you have in public spaces where ICE can enter, so there is a difference between public places and private spaces. So public spaces are any space that anyone can enter, go in and out. Libraries are public spaces. Where we are right now is a public space because anyone can come in and out. Soccer fields. But if there is an employee-only area or a place that's not readily accessible to the public, that's private, and they would need a judicial warrant to access those spaces. And so please be aware of your rights with that. And then I will pass it off to my colleagues.
All right. So the other question that we asked, but of course, oh yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that private space becomes very important if you are somebody who is trying to help protect our neighbors who may not have the proper paperwork. If you are an employer or you own you operate a business, right? If you have private spaces, you can demand ICE show you that judicial warrant with the name before they enter those spaces. So if you keep them private, right, you can draw that barrier for your workforce or whatever that would be there. You can also decline to let people into your own home or spaces as well.
All right, thank you.
Just wanted to add, sorry.
Okay, please.
The
Mr.
red
Lee.
card that everybody was referring to is this. So it's your constitutional right. It gives you that Fifth Amendment right and the Fourth Amendment. So it's on here, and it's very important. After we do a presentation on especially Know Your Rights, we hand this out, and it comes in different languages. A lot of our legal services have worked together as a collaboration partnership to create these resources. And we brought resources as well. We'll leave it with your representative. So these red cards are very important, and it tells you your right, and you have the right to remain silent. If they don't have a search warrant, they can't enter it. So it's very helpful resources. So this is what everybody's referring to. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please go ahead.
I'll say, I echo everything everyone else here say. It's important that you get legal representation. There are a lot of great legal resources out there. The Advocates for Human Rights. There are other organizations that do awesome work. There are other organizations that does awesome work. If you reach out to your congressional office, which is where I work, what we can do is, because I think the question was if you want to make sure, you want to see where your family member is.
Yeah, that was the next question, yes.
We're able to reach out to ICE. Your congressional member is able to reach out to ICE, send out a congressional inquiry asking about that particular constituent of ours, asking about their whereabouts. So we're able to, have them give us information about whether or not that person is in their possession. And then with legal advocacy that the person or family members may have, what your congressional member could come in handy is to work in tandem with your legal advocate, with your lawyer, in providing, say, a letter of support that may help strengthen your case in some way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but for us, we're like, it doesn't hurt, so our member will offer that as a service. But just legal representation, though, is key.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Please, any further contributions? Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, and just in terms of the locating your family members, that does require a certain amount of their information. So just like with your children, right, you want to have that emergency plan prepared. You want to make sure that you and your loved ones have each other's information, and that includes your A number, their names. Make sure you have copies of all of your documents stored in a safe place and somebody knows about them. If you have an attorney, make sure that you have their number memorized so that you can contact them. Those pieces, just being ready, puts you in a much better position.
Okay, so I have a general question. Do we know a timeline or a procedure? For example, if ICE stops me when I walk out of the door and they find out that I'm undocumented, what is the procedure? What is the timeline before I'm detained or whatever happens, deportation? Do we know a timeline? Because I want families to know that, okay, maybe in the next 1 hour or 2 hours or next 2 days is where they could act based on what is happening.
I mean, the really fun answer is it depends, because it really does. It depends on whether or not you already have an outstanding removal order that has been issued. It depends on whether or not there are criminal issues involved that require mandatory detention. Everybody's circumstances are going to be different, so that question itself you may want to talk to a legal representative about that, as well as what paperwork you can carry on you to help minimize your risks and things like that.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to come to you, Chief of Police. Please, what happens to someone's personal belongings, for example, and bank accounts or businesses if they are detained by ICE?
I have to be completely honest, I have no idea. It's just not, again, it's not in our purview. We don't do that work, and so we've never seen a case. The most we get involved with is a notification from ICE when they're in town. They generally will call us and let us know that they're going to be at an address to let local law enforcement know. But I would actually, probably some of the attorneys might know, have experienced that in some cases.
Please.
I think that's going to vary, but one thing that I've been asked and looked into is, like, would people's belongings, their homes, be subject to forfeiture by ICE? And the answer to that is no. So the federal government will not take your stuff. And, you know, but people, I know that, like, at my law firm, we're giving people a lot of resources for other types of attorneys, like the other fellow immigration attorneys mentioned. There are people who can help with, like, custody documents, but also, like, just making sure that people who remain in the United States would be able to help administer your belongings, your accounts, so that you can do what you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, there is no specific kind of protocol that I know of in terms of knowing the exact timing of things. Things can happen really fast. Once you're taken in by ICE, depending on whether you have a criminal conviction or not, you will be detained, and then there's like a bond hearing where you could, the minimum amount would be $1,500 for you to get a bond to be released, and so that's a process that you would have to go through once you're detained by ICE. And I will, in a bit, I'm looking for a rapid response line that I can give for people to call once, you know, you witness an ICE enforcement action or other types of enforcement. So you do have the right to, if you're a witness, to film what's going on, even if ICE says no. I mean, do not interfere with what's going on, but you do have that right to keep filming and protect that person's information, or make sure that to document what's happening. But I will be back with a number for the constituents to call.
Okay, thank you very much. So please, Representative Huldah, you may have a question here.
Yeah, thank you. I just got a text here. A really good question. This is for Mayor Moriarty's office. So somebody was talking about the amazing expungement clinic that you had, I think, a couple of months ago. And they're wondering, in relations to immigration, is your office involved in efforts to expunge certain criminal records for immigrants to prevent undue immigration-related consequences?
Yeah, we have had 3 community expungement clinics, and part of, well, that is prosecutor-led expungement. So yes, we are looking at people's convictions, and we're trying to get out in the community, because I think even though you could do it online, not everybody has access to a computer. And when we go out in the community, people know then that we're there and we can help them. So we do that, but I think by the time you get to that point, you're in a lot of danger. So I want to go to the front end of it. So the Hennepin County Attorney's Office does not work with the federal government. We are concerned with public safety, and much like Chief Bruley said, public safety depends on people's trust. So we know, and this is really important, this level setting. All of this fear mongering is based on a lot of things, not data, right? Because the federal government's own data says that immigrants are far less likely to commit crimes than people who are born here, right? So this fear mongering is about something completely other than what we actually know. In fact, our immigrant community is much more likely to be the victims, because they're vulnerable, because people know that they're less likely to call the police. So here are some of the things that we do at the county attorney's office. So thank you for projecting that. If you take a picture of that with your camera, our team has assembled a bunch of resources there, videos that are helpful, resources that will talk you through a lot of the things that we've talked about here tonight. But the Attorney General talked about UNT visas. So if you are the victim of a crime, you have the opportunity to get certified for a URT visa. We developed a policy, and that's our team over there, and especially Eder Castillo, has designed a policy for certification that has been called a model policy for the entire country. So I'm pretty confident in saying we have the best UNT visa policy in the country. And what that, yeah. And in 2024, we issued 154 certifications. That means that if you are the victim of a crime, we will certify that you were the victim of a crime so that you have some status here while you are trying to get that visa from the federal government. So that can be really helpful.
How fast is that visa? Just really quick.
Okay, so our part of it is very fast. Our part of it is we will process requests within 28 days. If somebody is in removal proceedings, we will do it within 7 days, and I believe we've actually done it in a day when it was a real rush. And really, you have to, any connection to Hennepin County. And we've gone around and we've talked to all the police chiefs in Hennepin County, and we have said, you know, if you want to send those to us, we will certify them. We will help certify them, and it is any connection. So if you are a resident of Hennepin County, but you were victimized in another county, any connection there. We view this very liberally because we know you are the victim of a crime, and we want to help you stay here. So that's an important piece of our approach here. The other thing that we're doing is we have been engaged in about a 6-month process in developing an entirely new immigration policy at the county attorney's office. As people know, very well know, if immigration can detain and deport you based on things like marijuana in a motor vehicle, which is a misdemeanor, but there are some ways that we can help so that somebody isn't deported. When I came into office, the immigration policy was that our lawyers were told that they may not consider any immigration consequences. We have changed that. We do consider immigration consequences, and if we can do so within public safety, we will come up with some type of resolution that won't result in the person being deported. So I expect us to roll out our new immigration policy in the next month or two. That's something we're very proud of. So you know, the chief talked a little bit about domestic violence. Here's the upshot of all of this. If you are the victim of domestic violence, are you going to call the police knowing that you may come to the attention of ICE and be detained and deported? If you do call the police, and you know, we know ICE sometimes hangs around courthouses, are you going to come to court and help us prosecute your case? If you are a witness to a crime, are you going to want to hang around and talk to the police? And this has nothing to do with the police. I'm very proud of the fact that we're in Hennepin County, and the Hennepin County Police Chiefs Association have issued a statement saying that they are not the federal government. They are not ICE. So that's a really good thing. But it doesn't stop people from fearing that that might be the case. The other issue is if we charge somebody and we feel that they need to be held accountable, we ought to be able to do that here in Hennepin County, right? Instead of having that person deported, if they are a danger to public safety, they're going to be a danger to public safety wherever they're deported. And so there are all kinds of reasons why we have no interest in helping ICE do whatever they're doing. We are looking at public safety in Hennepin County, and we value our immigrant community very much. We know it can be very difficult to trust government. We are government, we understand that, but we are here to help you.
Okay, thank you very much, please. So yeah, this will be a quick follow-up question for the Hennepin Attorney General, please.
Did you want the timings for those visas?
Oh yes, if you have it ready, please.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, generally speaking, T's are for victims of trafficking. There's a very specific definition. Those move much faster. They are anywhere between a year to 36 months. 12 to 36 months to get the visa at the end of it. And then your U visas take a long time. They can anywhere upwards of 8 years. They can be as long as 12 to 15, but you do get something called a bona fide determination, which comes with the the right to work and the deferred action. The one thing is that if you are eligible for either one of those and in removal proceedings, you get your eligibility determination. You tell your judge that you are seeking these through USCIS, right? And they will oftentimes, there are many ways to prolong your removal proceedings. So they do offer flexibility and a little bit of safety. So even though they are a long process, they are still something that is worth pursuing, even if you are in removal proceedings.
All right, thank you very much. I just wanted to come back to you. Oh,
sorry, I'll just
go
go back to the ICE enforcement hotline. So if you do witness ICE enforcement happening, you can call, there's a community organization called COPAL, and if you can call their navigation hotline. They are working with multiple legal organizations. So there's a coalition of the nonprofit legal organizations working together. So people are not without support here if you happen to be taken in by ICE enforcement. And so I will just say the number really quickly. And so you can call this number so that people are aware of what's happening and so that people are able to track ICE enforcement. And so that number is 612-249-8736. And I'm going to repeat that one more time, 612-249-8736. And there is another organization called Unidos that also has a hotline, but I can't remember it right now. But just know that the legal immigration organizations around Minnesota are working together, and we are aware of things when they do happen, and so you're not without support.
All right, perfect. So I have the number as 612-249-8736. At this point, I would like to ask a quick question for the Attorney General, the Hennepin County Attorney. Please, is the court, for example, considered a public space during an immigration proceeding? Of course, this can be a very unsettling situation for most families and friends.
Yeah, that's a great question. Back during Trump 1, ICE was hanging around the government center. That's the courthouse, essentially, in Hennepin County. They were hanging around in the government center and in the hallways outside of courtrooms. So if you've never been there, there are about 4 courtrooms on each floor. And what the judges would say was, ICE can't come into our courtrooms. ICE must stay out, but they said that the space outside of the courtroom, in the hallway, the elevators, the public service area, was a public place. So Attorney General Keith Ellison and Ramsey County Attorney John Choi and I wrote a letter to Chief Justice Hudson and copied our Ramsey County Chief Judge and Hennepin County Chief Judge, asking them to use what's called their inherent authority to declare the entire building the courthouse. Okay, so 10 other states have done that. So we have asked them to say, no, it's not just the courtrooms, it's the hallway, it's the entire building. And I believe the courts are meeting tomorrow about this, so we don't know what the answer is yet, but our hope is that the courts will do that because it scares people away from court, right? You know, how does it helpful if ICE stays out of the courtroom, but the moment you walk out the door, they're going to be there in the hallway or the elevator or the public service level?
All right, thank you.
Just a quick announcement. We have about 17 minutes before we end. So if you are in the audience and you have questions, Andrea, you want to raise your hand? Please summon or reach out to her, and then she can come and bring the mic to you. So if you have any questions, please.
All right, thank you very much.
If I could ask.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah. On that last point, too, I think it goes, the courthouse is one location, right? But there are other sensitive locations like schools and churches that previously ICE had said that they wouldn't go to for immigration enforcement purposes. They've now issued a memo saying that they're not following that policy anymore of staying away from sensitive spaces. So one thing I did want to plug for folks, there was a little bit of discussion about this earlier with information that our office released for schools. And that publication is directed mostly towards school officials, but there's also important information there that is important for parents to consider. So schools collect, and the president talked about this earlier, certain information about their students, especially in elementary and high school and middle schools. It's called directory information is the most basic term. And so we've suggested that schools look at that and consider how much they're asking for with that. Directory information can be as limited as the person's name and that they live in the district where the school is. But one really important thing for people to consider is that parents can make requests about what information is disclosed from that directory information, and also update things like emergency contacts. So just wanted to flag that. And the publication is available on our website for both school officials and parents to consider.
Okay, please, once as that, I would like for you to touch briefly on what is the status currently of DACA recipients under the current executive orders. We want to know how your office, for example, is responding to any of these federal policy changes.
I can take that one. So currently, DACA recipients, DACA is still a legitimate protected group right now in the United States. During the first Trump administration, they tried to rescind the DACA policy. And there was a lot of litigation across the country about that rescission process. Went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that the Trump administration had, they basically overruled the Trump administration's rescission of DACA. So DACA is still in place at the moment. I think it's uncertain what will happen this time around. So there is pending litigation in different courts across the country about that. There's also litigation that our office is involved in about DACA recipients' eligibility for things like healthcare under the Affordable Care Act. And so that's pending as well. So DACA is still in place, but it's I think at this time uncertain how it'll unfold.
And there's no
Please.
Oh my, that was very loud. There's no question that the administration has the power to rescind DACA. They were only struck down because they did a bad job. So people who are in DACA should be looking very seriously at what pathways they might have to different status or a green card.
All right, thank you very much. Quickly, we will be wrapping up very soon, but I have for legislation, at the level of legislations, I know for sure that we have the representatives. Since immigration enforcement is a federal issue, we want to know what role do Minnesota legislators actually play in shaping immigration policies of the state level going forward. What are some of the changes or conversations taking place at the state level?
I'll fix that. There's nothing at the state level for immigration. It's a federal issue, so that would be your congressional members. And right now, it's just a matter of, because with Congress, everything happens with votes, and you have to have enough support on both sides of the aisles, having some bipartisan things go through. So that's kind of where the issue is there, is just having enough support behind a legislature to have some of these things go forward.
There are some bills, though, this session that would require county attorneys to report to ICE somebody's immigration status. The irony of it, yeah, so, yeah, my pitch is call your representative and tell them this is a terrible idea to make local government agents of the federal government and ICE.
Yeah, I think there are many, many terrible bills that almost certainly won't pass the legislature here in Minnesota, but they are hearing them in committee right now because they have the power to do that in our weird House situation. I don't know if that doesn't really get outside the Capitol bubble, but there's a weird situation in the Minnesota House where the Republicans have control for another couple of weeks. And they're hearing really garbage bills, bills that would kick undocumented kids out of our public schools and cut off their access to health care like Mary said, like they're trying to deputize our local law enforcement to enforce immigration. And so it really is truly important that people reach out, even if you know that your state lawmaker agrees with you. It is really important for people to know that their constituents feel strongly about this issue and that we expect everyone to be brave and to stick together and to vote down these garbage bills. I introduced a bill last term with Senator Omar Fateh that was called the North Star Act that would have addressed a lot of the issues that we're now facing today around the federal government trying to extract data and mandate collaboration between the federal government and state and local law enforcement and agencies around immigration enforcement. And unfortunately, we did not pass that bill last term, but we are still looking at ways amongst the legislature, the governor's office, the AG's office, to protect data, like we've discussed, to encourage parties to not collect certain data. So there are things that we would have liked to have mandated that we're now just encouraging and making sure that state and local government entities are aware, including schools. And I think I'm just rambling now, but call your lawmakers, even if you're not sure about the bill numbers, except for House File 10, terrible. I don't know if you know the House File number for yours. It's not 10. But anyway, just say, like, we support immigrants, and we expect you to do the same.
Absolutely.
I also...
Yeah, thank you. I have a quick question that I would like to...
Can I just... At the very beginning,
okay,
she
yes.
did go through an entire list of things that Minnesota has been doing very well for immigrants, including their legal status, right? The expansion of the SIJ, of guardianship up to 21 is invaluable. Like, it is night and day when you have a state legislature that is willing to work with you to help navigate the immigration law as convenient, like as complicated as it is, versus one that is trying to fight you. So you should appreciate the work that they do where they can.
Perfect.
It was bipartisan bill.
Yes.
Republican Senate passed it unanimously off the floor. It was magical.
Awesome. So we'll be taking some questions from the audience, but before that, to our legal representative from the legal aid, would like to know, at this point in time, are you seeing more requests for legal assistance for immigration issues? And are these requests pro bono?
Yes, there is a lot of requests right now. There is a lot of fear, and we understand where that comes from. And our organizations, like I said, are all working together. The private attorneys as well. The immigration private chapter here is also working with the nonprofits to be able to give people counsel and help when it needs. So when ICE enforcement happens, that is also in talks and underway. And we have seen an uptick in numbers for ICE enforcement, and but there is a strong ICE enforcement network happening, rapid response network happening within our state, and so we have not seen too much large scale ICE enforcement, but there has been an increase in ICE enforcement around Minnesota, and so, but there's a lot of strong guidance from the Minnesota AG's office, and people are, our legal community here is being responsive as well.
Okay, Lee, do you also have anything to add, please?
Sorry?
Lee. Do you have anything to add, Lee, or everything is,
No, it's the same.
captured? Okay.
Yeah, it's the same all across all of our legal service.
Okay, perfect. Oh, perfect. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for holding this space for us to have this conversation. Mine is a follow-up to what you just shared around the spaces where ICE can go. Just seeking some clarification in terms of some of the things we're hearing, just to be sure. And this is in relation to churches. And we've heard that they can come into the churches, as I heard, and you talked about schools, but then there was something we're hearing, just want to make sure that that is true. If that's so, that they can come into the church, but inside the sanctuary, they cannot get in. So I just want to know that public space would also be outside the church, like those churches that have like the foyer, the front there, but they can enter into the sanctuary. Is that true, or I just want to know if you're aware of that, as you talked about the public spaces where they can come and where they may not.
Sorry, quick question. When you say sanctuary, do you mean inside the church?
Yeah, like inside the church, like where people are sitting, versus outside the entrance where people come in and leave their coats, the jackets out there. Yeah.
So previously it was deemed a sensitive place, but now that's taken care of, that's scrapped, so they can go inside the churches. But there may be, so the hard answer is yes, they can.
So they can go in. Thank you.
If they have a judicial warrant. No?
It's a public, yeah, the church is a public space.
It
You
is.
welcome everybody.
Because you welcome everyone, so anyone can come in and out, so they're able to go in that area.
So just to clarify what we had, that you can put in something that say private into the church, and then the outside one you say public. Does that make any difference?
So that would only matter if you were actually enforcing it. So if you had a church space that it was private, it was employee only, it was like there was an actual line that you kept the public out of, which is not normal in places of worship where they do tend to be more open and you do want your public to come in. It is unfortunate that is the direction that they have chosen to go, but the places that the public can come and you welcome the public are considered public spaces, and they do not need a warrant for those.
All right, thank you, please, Lillian. Oh, okay. Ladies first didn't work this time, huh?
Sorry, could you guys tell us the difference between a courthouse, in a courthouse, and out of a courthouse? Where is the public allowed? Not the executive or the lawmakers that's sitting, because they got their belt that holding them in place. Where is a safe place for the public to come and meet the judiciary authority, to get hands on their life that you're supposed to be representing, but none of you guys are sure based on your data that you have, that is not even secure. Can you tell us what's the limit, please?
Okay. Do we need further clarifications, or are we good?
Were you asking, is there part of a courthouse that is safe from ICE?
Where is a safe spot for people that's been chased should go, a free place? If you say the courthouse, there's a difference between in the courthouse and out the courthouse. Now, I didn't make the lines, so I just want to know where are these people should be, because when you come with a private and put it into public, you know, in there, that's ambiguous, because you can split the two. Now you're telling us that in church, you could take a line and divide that. But now in court, we're talking about space. So now where our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our brothers. Because we got a lot of people here, but they're not from here.
Okay.
So
I'm not done yet with it. Okay, if I'm done, I'll let you know. Keep that. But
No,
the
we needed
point-
further
I got your time. Just
clarification.
give me a second. I'll cover that.
Okay,
Just-
so if you can wrap
thank
that
you.
for us,
I'm
please.
going.
Thank you.
The point here is that tells the difference. This boy, you could tell us right now that the church inside is safe, outside it's not. Or you could tell us in the court where the judges reside and his empire around him. Now, beyond that point, our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, our friends, our children are not safe because they will be reprimanded or arrested for any act. Now, I want to know, for my safety and my children, my nieces and my nephews' safety, where's the line for safety?
I mean, the honest answer to that is in your own home. But no, that's the honest, candid answer here. No place is safe. No place is safe. And unfortunately, I think what we're all up here trying to talk about is where are some of those lines. But even though your home might be safe, you're not on house arrest, you have to leave your home, you have to take your kids to school. And so that's the tragedy of all of this, that it is making our immigrant community fearful and feel as though there is no safe place. And I think that that's the purpose. That is the purpose of what they're doing.
And
I have a question.
I'm maybe the problem there is because she is absolutely right. I think maybe the problem was the line, right? The idea between private and public. And what happened was that there used to be spaces that were designated as safe spaces. They were hospitals, they were schools, they were churches. When that was rescinded, those designations of safe space were taken with them. And that means that unless it is a space that is protected from, is a private space, privately owned, not open to the public, right? But is a definition under the Fourth Amendment, I believe. And so that is where that difference is. It's not about safe spaces as they were previously designated. And that is, maybe where it was. It's not a arbitrary line you have to watch for. It's more along the lines of those spaces are no longer safe because of that action. And now you are back to the spaces that would have been, if it would have qualified as that outside of that designation, that is considered private.
All right.
So my question is.
Yes. Good.
Sorry. So
I'm
if
sorry.
If I could just add one more thing in terms of, so I understand the frustration, the fear. It is a hard thing to live with, wanting to protect your family and your friends and, just the people around you and your community. But what we're trying to advocate for is for preparedness. Try to be, if that does happen, if that ICE enforcement, aspect does happen to you or your family, it is good to prepare for that occasion if it does happen. And so with the family preparedness, with the delegation of parental authority, with knowing your rights. So if you are undocumented, the Constitution still applies, right? So just know your rights. Try to, we will, again, leave the red cards, but you please do not sign anything because you could be signing away your rights. Stay silent. You don't have to say where you're from, anything about your immigration status at all. And then if you do have other reliefs available, so we encourage people to look into what types of immigration reliefs that you may have. Talk to an attorney. Try to call the nonprofits if you're able to get a consult to talk to an attorney. and try to get some type of immigration relief, meaning an application, for example, or if you do have some status right now, for example, if you have temporary protected status, TPS, or you have already applied for asylum, try to, make a copy of those, or if you have a work permit with you, you do have status here. You just make sure that there is someone you trust that has a copy of those. It's all about preparedness, and so preparing yourself and your family for these events.
All right, thank you. Definitely, it's all about preparedness. So please, Lillian can go ahead, and then we can have time for one more question, and we'll close on the questions from the audience. Please, Lillian, go ahead.
So my question is, thank you, first of all of you, for being here. It's been good information, and this is a very difficult time for communities and for individuals as well. My question is more towards the false arrests that sometimes occur. What happens when somebody is falsely arrested by ICE? Does an individual have any legal recourse through the courts? How does one go about receiving relief on that? Do you then go to the courts, or do they have indemnity and you cannot actually get any relief through any legal recourse if they falsely arrest you and either you're a citizen or you have residency and are here legally?
That actually happened in a federal lawsuit. It's one of the reasons why jails don't honor ICE detainers. Detainers are not warrants, they're just requests by ICE. And there was a case where a jail held a citizen and they sued and won. And so that is why a lot of jails don't honor ICE holds.
And I was just going to mention too, that the administration expanded something called expedited removal. It doesn't apply to everyone, but it's greatly expanded the number of people who would be able to be deported without a hearing. And so people can keep with them proof that they've been physically present in the United States for at least 2 years. That certainly couldn't hurt. Obviously, if you're a US citizen, you shouldn't have to act like you're worried you're gonna be deported. But I just thought I'd mention that they did expand this expedited removal, and we are worried that that could be the result, is that people who are citizens, are permanent residents, are here legally, are gonna get swept up in that.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll take our last question. Oh, no, yeah, she has a hand raised. No, you have the mic, please.
Thank you, Colin.
Yes.
I'll just stand. Before I mention, I say my question, I want to just thank my local law enforcement, because I think I've seen Chief more than, I think I've seen him like 5 videos over the past month just talking about.
You probably see me more than my wife has. That's what she would say.
Yeah, that's true. I just wanted to thank my my local enforcement for the work that they are doing to just put us to rest. My biggest question is, fear thrives when we immigrants and other individuals feel unstable. And I just want to ask, there's a lot of businesses thrive in Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, because of the immigrants who are in the workforce. And we are looking at a lot of businesses closing down, and what are the resources and materials that are available, because I've seen that for the first time today. And I wish I could see that everywhere, so that our local people can know that there's help somewhere. So what material is being spread around to us in the community, or to us community leaders, to give to our people, so that the fear can subside and know, hey, it's safe to go outside, our business can thrive, we can have workers. I mean, we are having people who don't even want to come out of the houses because of this, just out of fear. And so what are the literacy programs that are in print, or more like in videos, from immigration lawyers, to put us to rest a little bit?
So let me start off, and then I'll let the rest of the folks, especially the organizations who are represented. So from my office, the goal is the original goal for this event was to just do an introductory, like there is a group of like experts available, resources available across all different, departments, parts of, our communities, from our law enforcement to education to, Hennepin County Attorney to the legislator. And so I want to encourage our community that, if you don't know who to go to, reach out to your representative. First and foremost. They will have a resource center for you to plug into. What I'm doing with my legislative assistant, Andrea back there, we are putting together a resource, basically what we call a resource folder, where if somebody's calling us pertaining to anything immigration, we can send that out to them. And then also, like you said, we need to do a better job of getting the word out to the community, because guess what? The misinformation that is going out there is louder than the real information. And so that's why I really appreciate the folks on this, table. For example, Mary Moriarty, she had a session for legislators to literally just plug in and to get an update on what's going on. I wonder if she can do that as, a bi-weekly with your team, right? And then obviously all the way to the end, we have amazing immigration lawyers, staff who are literally, this is their life. This is what they're doing day in and day out, who are providing resources. They talked about the red card, right? Is that what you guys were mentioning? And so from our end, we're gonna have some, literature back there you can pick up on your way out. But if you don't know who to reach out to your legislative offices. They should be able to point you to the right person to get the help that you need.
I think these kind of dialogues and conversations are very important too, and very powerful. I mean, when you hear your chief of police say, when we come to your house, your immigration status is not our business, that's powerful. Because a lot of people don't want to call the police, when they're in danger or they need help the most. So when you hear that from the top and that's going to trigger down, that means a lot. And so the folks in this room can also help spread the word and let the people in your community, in your homes, in your churches know about these conversations, as well as the things you're hearing from these panels. So with the resources that Representative Huldah here is putting together, that's going to be available. And I know in a lot of our immigrant communities, our churches, our mosques are very important places. So encouraging, police chiefs and lawmakers to go into those spaces, because sometimes the people are afraid to come out to these. So part of what our job could be is, meeting you where you are and spreading this message as well. So a lot of work to be done.
All right, thank you. Please, let's put our hands together for our panelists. Great submission, great contributions.
Hi, sorry.
And amazing education.
For resources, sorry.
Direct legal
We have time.
resources. He's got a website for people as well.
We have only 6 minutes. Wanted to make sure that we are all done by 8:30 to respect our time. Do we take more questions from the audience?
If I can.
I think there's one more, but what we can do is, as we are wrapping up, because we literally just have 5 minutes, let me do a quick thank you before we wrap up here. So first of all, President Garcia, so appreciative of you opening this space for us. So thank you so much. Because we don't have a whole lot of money to put on this event. So having partners like yourselves, and then also the partners, the flyer is not up there anymore. The partners from the community partners. I saw him when Yegetinge President was here. Global Fatherhood Foundation, Mr. Sam Wangi is back there. Africa Let's Talk. And then I think we had Lillian Oteno there from various. So we have community leaders and community organizations who are on the front lines, who were part of this conversation. And then also our streaming, the gentleman back there from, this college. Thank you so much for putting it together, And then all of our media houses. Mushale is in the building. Thank you so much, Mushale, for covering this. And then lastly, to the panel, once again, I can't say this enough, that what you guys are doing, literally you came here, especially some of you have been working all day. We were on the floor until like 5 and then had to rush here. And then the rest of you guys, I know how busy your schedule is. I thank you. Thank you so much, because this is the kind of information that needs to go out into the community so that we can combat the misinformation that is overwhelmingly out here, because we definitely want to make sure that our community feels supported, they feel safe, they feel welcomed, and they know that they have a place to go when they need it. So with that, we definitely want to wrap it up. If there's a burning question, Mr. Sam Mwangi, I see you looking at me. Please stand up, ask your question, then we can wrap it up.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Mr. Samuel Mwangi with the Global Fatherhood Foundation. Actually, my question is just, I'm going to ask the chief. If you look on the statistically, it's actually more men are being picked up by ICE than women. So my question I want to ask and to the chief, what should I do, or what am I supposed to do if you are stopped by ICE, and what you are supposed not to do when you're stopped by ICE?
First off, the statistics, don't know. I've been asked a lot of questions around statistics. We don't ask, so we don't track in any way, shape, or form around the statistics of who's getting picked up, who's deported, who's here, documented, undocumented. We don't ask. We certainly don't have a database of that. Related to that, I often get asked, because this is a common theme, like from some people, like, well, Chief, more immigrants are being picked up because they commit more crimes, and that's just not the data that we see. We do have to ask in the jail, so we know who gets arrested and who asks, and it's not. I'm just not seeing that as valid data. Your specific question about what are you supposed to do if you get stopped by ICE, it's hard for me. I don't give you legal advice. I would tell you, if I was in the shoes, is you got to do what's right for you, which is you have tons of resources here. You always have the right to remain silent. The Constitution's for everybody. Leverage it. I mean, I will be honest with you. If I get stopped and I'm not sure how many beers I had, I'm not going to go offering up a bunch of extra information. I'm a police chief. I don't drink and drive. I'm just telling you, like, do what's right for you and leverage your rights. And I would encourage you to make sure that you use the resources that have been labeled here tonight and access to them. I would absolutely start with that. Okay. And maybe there's somebody else who could answer it better, but.
Yeah, we have resources out there on the table that tells you like how to interact with ICE, what to do. But if you are walking and ICE stops you, you can say, am I under arrest? And if that answer is no, you can leave. You can walk away if you're not under arrest. And then there are different interactions if you are in your car. ICE can, if ICE stops you, an official vehicle stops you, you must stop. And you don't need to answer which country you're from, give your immigration status, any of that, but you must stop if pulled over and show your driver's license. And there are resources out there in the back outside that tells you how to, if ICE stops you, or how to interact with ICE as well. I don't know if you want to say something.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to take one just concluding remarks, and would like to take this from the Legal Protection and Rights, especially the Office of the Attorney General. And so please, if you can lead us home, a takeaway in the area of legal protections and rights. What takeaway information do you have for everyone watching or listening now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the chief said it well. The Constitution, you have rights under the Constitution. Those rights apply to all persons in the United States, whether you're documented or undocumented. And so I think this is going to be a period where those rights are tested. And there's people up here, both with organizations, with the government, that are working to protect those rights for non-citizens here in Minnesota. So I think a couple of resources to plug as well for awareness. We have publications on our website. One talks specifically about jails and sheriff's ability to hold people for ICE detainers, and concludes that there is no ability under both state or federal law to do that. Our office just issued that the other day. We have information about immigration scams, the information about schools and what they can do that I mentioned earlier. And I think there's successes happening across the country too. I think one example is the birthright citizenship litigation, right? So the Trump administration issued that executive order saying that children born to undocumented and other parents without certain forms of legal status aren't citizens of the United States. That's directly contrary to the US Constitution, and there's litigation across the country about that now. And judges have said that it is blatantly unconstitutional, and they've stopped that from going into effect now. So there's fights going on about this, and I know it's a scary time for everyone, but there's work being done, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to be here.
All right, please, let's put our hands together. All right, in those moments like this, information is powerful. Information can be a great weapon. And thank you so much, our state representative, Huldah. Please, let's put our hands together for Huldah, for putting this together, bringing the community. And to the community, please, thank you so much for being a medium to listen and to really send those messages to your homes and to your families and everybody involved. I know some of you may still have some questions. I believe that the panelists may hang around just for a little bit, so please, you can still go ahead and ask them direct questions. Thank you so much once again. My name is Collins Kofiop, and thank you very much for being with us on this very important community conversation. Once again, thank you, and have a great evening.
And let's give a hand to Collins, y'all. He did a great job. Thank you.